Time is often understood as something that moves forward, a straight line, a progression from past to present to future, a sequence of moments that never return. But when observed more closely through nature, behavior, and the patterns described across myth and experience, time reveals a different structure. It loops, it repeats, it cycles. The 7-day structure is one of the clearest symbolic reflections of this pattern. Not because of the calendar itself, but because of what it represents. A repeating sequence of human experience. Sunday equals the sun, lead to awareness. Monday equals the moon, leads to emotion. Tuesday equals Mars, leads to action. Wednesday equals Mercury, leads to thought. Thursday equals Jupiter, leads to meaning. Friday equals Venus, leads to value. Saturday equals Saturn, leads to time. These are not random categories. They are stages, states that individuals move through continuously, whether consciously or not. And when viewed through the archetypal system already established, each of these stages connects directly to deeper symbolic forces. Awareness begins the cycle. It aligns with the sun, the archetype of truth, illumination, and clarity. This is the moment where something becomes visible, not created, not changed, but revealed. It is the stage of light described earlier. The moment where reality is seen for what it is, even if only briefly. From awareness comes emotion. This aligns with the moon, the archetype of perception, reflection, and internal experience. Once something is seen, it is felt, interpreted, reflected inward. Emotion does not change reality. It changes the way reality is experienced. This is where subjectivity enters the cycle. Emotion leads to action. This is the domain of Mars, direct, forceful, immediate. What is felt begins to move outward. Reaction becomes behavior. This is where internal states translate into external change. Without this stage, the cycle would remain contained within thought and perception. Action leads to thought. Here, Mercury emerges, the archetype of processing, communication, and interpretation. After action occurs, it is evaluated, reflected upon, understood. This is where meaning begins to form, not from what was intended, but from what actually happened. Thought organizes experience into something that can be carried forward. From thought comes meaning. This aligns with Jupiter, the archetype of belief, expansion, and higher interpretation. Thought connects events. Meaning organizes them into something larger. This is where patterns begin to solidify. What was once a single action becomes part of a broader understanding of how things work. Belief forms. From meaning comes value. This is the realm of Venus, what is chosen, what is desired, what is considered important. Once something has meaning, it becomes something that can be prioritized. It becomes something to pursue or avoid. Value shapes direction. It determines what will be repeated and what will be rejected. From value comes time and reality. This is where Saturn and Earth intersect. Saturn, as time and structure, ensures that actions and choices unfold within limits. Earth, as experience, is where those choices are lived. Reality is not separate from the previous stages. It is the result of them. What is seen, felt, acted upon, thought about, believed, and valued eventually becomes lived experience. And once reality is experienced, the cycle begins again. New awareness emerges from it. New emotions follow. New actions are taken. The loop continues. This is why life feels repetitive at times. Not because nothing changes, but because the structure of experience remains consistent. The same stages repeat even as the content within them evolves. A person may encounter different situations, but move through the same sequence. They see something. They feel something. They act. They reflect. They assign meaning. They decide what matters. They experience the outcome. And then it begins again. This cyclical structure is not limited to individuals. It appears in larger systems as well. Societies move through phases of awareness, reaction, action, reflection, belief formation, value shifts, and structural change. Civilizations rise, stabilize, expand, overextend, collapse, and renew, following the same pattern at a different scale. Even myth itself reflects this structure. The cycle described earlier, source, order, understanding, humanity, knowledge, consequence, collapse, renewal, bridge, transformation operates on the same principle. It is not separate from the seven-stage cycle. It is a larger expression of it. The key insight is this. Time does not simply pass. It patterns. It organizes experience into repeating structures that can be observed, recognized, and eventually understood. This is why ancient systems often treated time as cyclical rather than linear, not because they lacked precision, but because they observed recurrence. The rising and setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, the return of seasons. These were not one-time events, they were patterns. Reliable, repeatable, and structured. Human experience follows the same logic. This does not mean that life is trapped in repetition. It means that repetition is the framework through which change occurs. Because while the structure of the cycle remains consistent, awareness within it can change. A person who does not recognize the cycle is carried through it unconsciously. They react without seeing patterns. They repeat actions without understanding outcomes. They experience consequence without recognizing cause. But once the cycle is seen, something shifts. The individual begins to recognize where they are within it. They begin to anticipate what comes next. They begin to adjust before consequence forces change. This introduces a new possibility, not control over time, but awareness within it. Time, then, is not just movement. It is structure, a repeating framework through which experience unfolds. And within that framework, the same forces continue to operate. Truth reveals, perception interprets, action responds, thought processes, belief organizes, value directs, reality forms over time, over and over again. Life does not move in straight lines. It moves in loops. And within those loops, patterns form. And within those patterns, understanding becomes possible.